Hi guys, Grant Richardson here. I'm going to give you an overview of the IELTS speaking test so that you have a better idea of what to expect on the test day, so that you feel less nervous. I'll also give you some tips on how to behave to try to make the exam run more smoothly and hopefully waste less time during the test. The IELTS speaking test goes for 11 to 14 minutes. The time starts as soon as the examiner has finished talking about the details of the test into the audio recorder, such as your name, their name, and the test date. I'll explain in a little bit more detail later, but just to summarize, those 11 to 14 minutes comprise part 1, which is an interview on general topics, and part 2, which is a 2-minute talk on a topic of general nature. Part 2 is also called the long turn. And part 3, which is a discussion on questions that are related to the topic in part 2. There's a strict time limit for the test, and it's important to understand this so that you don't feel annoyed or worried if the examiner stops you suddenly while you're speaking, because they need to move on to the next question or the next part of the test. The total time for part 1 is 4 to 5 minutes, part 2 is 3 to 4 minutes, and part 3, 4 to 5 minutes. Therefore, the total time of the test is 11 to 14 minutes. Part 1 is an interview where you answer several questions on several topics. These topics are of a general nature, so they're not too difficult to answer. You're expected to extend your answers, so you'll need to use more than a few words in your answer. On the other hand, don't say too much because you'll be wasting time for other questions. About 2 to 3 sentences or 10 to 20 seconds per answer is normally enough. If you need to, you can ask the examiner to repeat the question. If you don't have an answer to a question, then rather than sitting there trying to come up with an answer, you can just politely explain to the examiner you don't have an answer to that question and ask them if they could move on to the next question. Otherwise, you're just wasting time for other questions. In part 2, you're given a topic to talk about for 1 to 2 minutes on a topic card, which has several prompts to guide you on what to say about this topic. And you're also given 1 minute preparation time. If you don't understand anything on the topic booklet or topic card, then you should tell the examiner immediately during your preparation time, rather than wait until you have to start speaking. Otherwise, if you ask for clarification during your speaking time, you're just wasting time to demonstrate your English ability. You can start preparing as soon as the examiner finishes telling you what the topic is and hands you the topic booklet or card. You don't need to ask for permission to start preparing. If you want to start speaking before your preparation time is up, you can just let the examiner know you're ready, and then they will confirm with you whether or not you're ready, and then they'll ask you to start speaking. At the end of your 2-minute talk, when the examiner asks you to return the paper and the pencil and the topic booklet or card, it's better if you can just pick them up and hand them all together to the examiner, rather than letting the examiner reach over and take them back themselves. I know most candidates are a little bit nervous and their hands may be a little bit shaky, but it's a good opportunity to show your politeness. And it also saves a little bit of time if you can do it yourself rather than let the examiner do it themselves. Part 3 is more like a discussion. The topics are related to the topic in part 2, but they are of a more general nature. A common mistake by candidates is that they answer the questions in part 3 by talking about themselves. The reason that that's a mistake is because the purpose of part 3 is to demonstrate your ability to discuss topics of an abstract nature, because that's more difficult to do than talking about yourself. At the end of part 3, when you say goodbye, you can thank the examiner. Don't forget to take your passport or ID card and your registration slip with you. Lastly, leave politely and leave confidently. Don't criticize your own performance, no matter how well or how poorly you think you did. And don't be tempted to ask the examiner how well you did. Examiners are not allowed to give any information about a candidate's performance. Candidates receive their results 2 weeks after the test.